Hello everybody, my name is Ben Yard. I'm the Somerset Whittler and this is my first YouTube tutorial, and it's going to be on what I get asked the most, which is how do I do my eye cuts. You'll have to excuse me because this is my first video and I'm doing this myself on the tripod, so you're kind of upside down to me and right in my face. But what I've done is I've got this little small piece of basswood. I have taken a Sharpie and coloured it black because I've done this a couple of times now and it's really hard to see the cuts with the lights, and then if I turn the lights and get them right it becomes a little bit dark to see it properly. So we're working off the corner. Okay, I'll turn it back against myself. So we're going to be a little bit upside down, but I'll keep showing. So I'm not worried about the top of it because we're just going to do eyes. So we'll do like a brow cut to start with, which is literally down and in, which we would have all done before. Taking me time, going nice and steady, just so that if anybody wants to follow along, they can follow along, or it doesn't get too confusing. There we go. And then one for the bottom of the nose, straight in and up, straight in and up. You can take this really quite deep if you wanted to. If you wanted to do a bigger nose, you can take it really wide, or however, really, to shape your nose. We all tend to be in a little bit of habit when we're doing these noses just to take a nick up to get the shape right. So I'm going to do that. This is usually where my nose goes off in all sorts of funny shapes. Okay. So just quick cuts. So we've gone straight in here, taking a slice out, then down the bottom for the nose. Okay, so going back up to the brow cut, what we're going to do there is just take that down and slide it down and round it up from the nose. So we are shaping that downwards. Hopefully you can see that from the cuts I'm making. So just trying to make the eye socket area open up a little bit. We still want to keep it relatively symmetrical at this stage, although if you don't, it doesn't matter, that can add to the character. Okay, so we've just given it a bit of wings for the eyes. I'm just going to knock that brow off. Try not to take too much of the Sharpie off so you can actually see the cuts we're making. Okay, by creating those wings, what it's allowed us to do is to be able to slide our knife along the side of the nose to shape the nose. So hopefully you can see, if I can try and do it so that you can see it funny angle here, we're just going to roll the blade. So we're going to go into that eye socket, we're just going to roll it up into the nose. And then on the other side we're going to do the same, because I'm right-handed, it's going to work kind of the opposite way, away from the eye. Okay, and then we can just take that nose in a touch. So that's kind of shaped the basic part of the nose and the brow. Now from here we can make that brow bigger and deeper, and then we could literally put like cartoon eyes in there. We could paint them if we wanted to. That's not something I personally do. Nothing wrong with it. It's not something I do, so I won't teach something I don't do. But there are two ways I go about this now. I will usually use a gouge and get like a recess eye, or I will do what they call the 5-cut eye. I don't do it in 5 cuts, so I tend to call it like a V-cut eye. So how do we do this? Right, so we go from the corner of the eye where it goes into the nose, which would be, you can see on the camera here and here. So I would put a cut in here, coming down towards the nose. And then I do one going up into the brow. Hopefully you can see that. And then I will do that coming away from the eye, back into the corner. And it will create either like a square or like a sideways kite shape. Can you see that? A bit more difficult now the black Sharpies come off. And then I'll go back and cut into those, taking out a slither. Let's do that. What this is doing is creating a recessed eye. So we're literally making like an eyeball that's sat inside the face. And this can be shaped however you want. Hopefully you can see that cut. Okay, so we've shaped that now. Because it's actually recessed in the eye, we can take away some of those sharp corners just by rolling our blade, taking out small chips, and that eye socket, that eyeball, sorry, is now literally in the socket in the face. Sorry if it looks like I'm pausing every now and again. I'm just making sure I'm still on camera. So you can play around with this for as long as you like now to get that perfect round eyeball in the face, if you like. But what those cuts have allowed you to do is actually segregate that eyeball from the rest of the wood, so it shouldn't split. You still have to be very, very delicate with your cuts, but you should have yourself now an eyeball within that wood. Can we see that? Very basic. Not too much time spent on that. Now the opposite eye, I will show you a different technique I do, which would be to use a gouge. So what we would do with a gouge is we would go in alongside, and as soon as you start using the gouge into the eye, you can start to see that you are formulating an eye socket. Don't want to go too mad. You can go as deep as you like. And like me, you need to make sure that your gouge is nicely sharp. By holding up beforehand would help. So now we're getting a real recess into there. Get that quite deep. We can shape that however we want to shape that. Again, because if we created a ridge there, we can just go around a little bit like we did with the nose, and we can just roll that cut just to tidy up any mess I've made with that that gouge that needs a bit of a strop. So now we've created an indentation. Now what I would do is I would take very similar processes. I would take my blade and I would stick it right in where that corner is. Where the tear ducts are on your eyes is where I would stick that in with a slight angle up, and then a slight angle down. Not as big as what we were doing a second ago for the eyeball, but just a small one. And then we will go in and we will just literally nip out a triangle. Hopefully you can see that. Then we will go into the far side and do exactly the same. 2 cuts, creating a little triangle. Nip that triangle out. Now the deeper you make that triangle, the more that eye is obviously going to pop. So you can go back in and create that a little bit deeper if you wanted. Right, so those two cuts should now, as you look at it, should start to be able to see an indented eye. So you can now pretty much join the 2 cuts together with just a slide of your blade across. And now with that rolling technique that we were talking about, you can just get underneath that eye and just roll a slither away. Just roll a slither away. And from the top, you can do the same. If you're not comfortable with rolling your blade in this aspect, you could just trim from the eyeball up, which we'll do both. And then that will allow you just to take away the edge of the eyeball. This isn't the best piece of basswood I've ever used, but it will do for the purposes of showing this. And then from there we can then reshape that nose a bit more, creating a nice wing on that nose from there. Of course, if we've done it on one side, we need to do it on the other. We can shape that nose. Create wings on the nose. Like so. So we got ourselves some eyes. I'll just quickly tidy this up a little bit. Okay, alongside that eye again, look, you can nearly get that eye to pop. You can really shape that eyeball now, need be. So see how we can really shape that eyeball that we made for V-cuts. And you can get them really round if need be, and then where we still got black here, you can kind of create an eyelid or a brow quite easily because we've got lots of wood left on here. This one we've got really deep already, so again we can just keep shaping that if we wanted to, get a cleaner cuts in it. Learn that cut where you can just literally roll the blade right the way across, and that'll get us a nice clean look on the basswood as well. Okay, and then you can go in, just clean that eyeball up. I mean, he's recessed, so you can get him to go back further if you weren't happy with it. You You can just go in and just kind of clean that up a bit. Okay. And we can start to shape that lower lip. We could create some lines from the top of the nose. So from this nose here, what we will do is we'll take a cut from this corner to create the nostril and just drop it down where it's also going to create the cheek. So we will go, see if I can do this upside down. From here, we will take almost a moon shape down. Okay, and then moon shape down, moon shape down. And then what we will do is alongside the nostril here, we'll take a cut following the nostril. Then we will take a chip just in there. That's now created like a smile line, which with a bit of planning you could draw on. Do the same on the other side. Just gonna have to turn it my way so that I get it similar shape. That cut in alongside the nose. Take that chunk out. We've created that cut. Again, you can play away around with that as much as you like. One cut and leave it, or go back in and several cuts. It just helps you shape that nose up. And then you can shape that drop in the mouth, help you create cheeks, which will then go towards us creating a mound for the mouth. So when we're doing our mouth, we would like our mouth to have quite a roundish mound. So that's where these cuts will come in handy. So the deeper we can get that nose back into the face, the more realistic that will look. And we've got that mound looking quite round, hopefully. Okay. Stick with it when you're doing your carvings. I always found when I started, I would be carving for 10-15 minutes and I'd look at it and I'd think that is shocking. And I still think that now actually when I'm doing this. But if you just stick with it and play with it, and almost like a sculpture, just kind of adapt it. Don't be too solid with what your design's going to look like. Adapt it and move it. You'll be surprised at how much you can improve on it. Don't think, oh, I'm going to copy this and it's got to look exactly the same. Kind of have your own style. And what you'll do is, as you go by, you'll slip into, you'll discover different ways of doing things. Sometimes by mistake, and you'll think, oh, that was good, I like that, that worked out really well. And you'll naturally be able to take that into your next one. Now, when it comes to mouths, I always like to draw mine on, and I'm practically looking for a pencil. Try and give it, I think sometimes in the mouth you can get some real expression in the mouth. So I like to go from one end, kind of drop it. Just kind of drop it. So we're gonna go funny like that. And then I draw a line at each end. That's all. I'm gonna take my blade, I'm gonna score across that line. nice and firm, like so. Then from underneath, I'm going to take a small cut in, like a V cut to a stop. And I'll follow that around. Okay, and on those lines coming down, we'll just do a straight score down on both of them. And then on the corner of each lip, we'll just take a small chunk out. This is just going to create some shadow and give it a little bit more of a realistic sort of look. We can again sculpt it and play with it. It's going to give us more of a sort of lips look, I suppose. Same on the other side. Try not to take too much from the middle of the lip, because that's where we're going to want to put our bottom lip. So we're going to do something looking like that. Okay, so we can score with a pencil just a small little line like that to give us an idea of where we want our bottom lip. Yeah, and then we'll take our knife and we'll just cut. This isn't going to go straight in, it's going to go kind of down a touch, and then we come back to take a chunk, and that's kind of scored us. Sorry, I've got to turn it back the other way around because I need to be able to see. And that is going to create that bottom lip, and then shaping it back towards that cut. Both sides. Okay. Ideally, if you've got the time, this nose cut, get this back deep so that you've got the nose in the face. Take your time with the eyes, because you can get them quite deep and rounded with both ways of doing it like that. I will tidy this fella up and then I will come back and show you where I've gone with his nose a little bit.